The year is 1993. Bill Clinton is sworn into office as the 42nd President of the United States. Jurassic Park is the biggest movie of all time. Michael Jordan leads the Chicago Bulls to another championship, the first of 2 three-peats. And NBA Jam is setting arcades on fire all across the world. Foregoing the normal attempts to make sports titles as true to life as possible, NBA Jam combines basketball with simple, fast-paced action that revolutionized what sports games could be. The game was a landmark in video games and pop culture, moving over 20,000 arcade cabinets, and was the first ever to bring in $2 billion in quarters. Looking to capitalize on its success, Acclaim Entertainment licenses Jam for home consoles from Midway, as they had done previously for Mortal Kombat. What follows is a murky, often forgotten part of video game history, and how arguably the most prolific sports game of all time was stolen from its creators and ran straight into the ground. This is the story of how Acclaim stole NBA Jam from Midway. In 1992, Midway programmer and designer Mark Turmel sees Atari's Primal Rage at a trade show. What catches Turmel's attention is the use of digitized graphics of the dinosaurs created from photographs of stop-motion animations for each fighter. It also happened that Williams, the parent company of Midway, had recently acquired another studio, Bailey. Bailey had seen some success with their own cartoon, goofy basketball game called Arch Rivals. Arch Rivals features 2-on-2 play with hand-drawn artwork and the ability to shove around and punch other players. Having been a big basketball fan himself, Turmel decides to merge the digitized art of Primal Rage with the loose rules of Arch Rivals. During development, Midway president Neil Nicastro suggests the project should secure a license, one from the National Basketball Association. The NBA wasn't keen on allowing Midway to use their name, logos, or players. Perception of arcade games within the NBA was twisted, to say the least, believing they only appeared in seedy locations like strip clubs and rundown bars, similar to those surrounding the NBA headquarters in New York. Midway proceeded to put together a video demonstrating that, in fact, arcades were usually family-friendly affairs, and the arcade cabinets were more commonly found in places like bowling alleys or pizza shops. But more enticing than the knowledge of arcades not being scary was the potential revenue a properly licensed video game could bring in. Finally appeased, Midway agreed to pay the NBA $100 for every cabinet sold in exchange for the NBA license. NBA Jam was finally born. After 10 months of development, NBA Jam was released and began shattering records. Mark Turmel finds himself getting phone calls from other NBA players wanting to be put in the game. A special arcade cabinet was made with and for the likes of Ken Griffey Jr., Michael Jordan, and Gary Payton. Midway also received complaints of the cabinets reportedly breaking down, but as it turned out, the coin boxes were jammed full. That's how successful NBA Jam was. Celebrities wanted to play themselves, and the public paid more than the machines could handle to get their time in. It wasn't long before Acclaim, Midway's console business partner, was knocking at their door, ready to bring the monster hit home. Acclaim's entire MO was built around licensing successful arcade titles and porting them to systems like the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Acclaim had entered a multi-title deal with Midway, offering to pay Midway for the rights to bring games like Mortal Kombat to the aforementioned systems, as well as handhelds. According to Sean Liptak, one of the developers at Midway who worked on NBA Jam, in an interview with 1UP given in 2011, he stated that there was a general feeling that Acclaim was making more money off our games than we were. This feeling wasn't just a hunch, but a hard, backed by numbers, fact. In the same article, Acclaim's co-founder, Greg Fishbach, says, look at the revenue model. So you sell 15,000 arcades at $2,000 a piece, and you sell 2 million units of a game at $40 a piece. Now, which one's more successful? This kind of animosity led to some bitterness from the Midway team. Liptak also stated that we were never impressed with Acclaim's work. I think in general, most of the developers at Midway, we just sort of tolerated Acclaim. They just kind of took our stuff and slapped their name on it and hacked up on it and released it. The following year, in 1994, NBA Jam Tournament Edition was released, with player substitution, a tournament mode, more player stats, and further tweaks to the gameplay. Acclaim followed suit, releasing the console version in 1995 before both companies saw the writing on the wall. As stated earlier, the home releases of Midway's games were making a ton of money. Money that, despite the licensing fees Acclaim was paying, Midway saw hardly any of. As the deal with Acclaim came to a close, Midway sought to start porting their own titles themselves, thus scoring in arcades and at home. But for NBA Jam, Acclaim had a different idea. What's interesting to note is that a game like Mortal Kombat was entirely owned by Midway, but NBA Jam wasn't. Or more specifically, the NBA Jam name wasn't owned by Midway, instead being owned by the National Basketball Association. According to the same piece from 1UP, two anonymous former Midway employees point to Greg Lasson, a former Acclaim employee who went to work for the NBA licensing department in 1994. It's alleged by the former Midway folks that Lasson tricked Midway higher-ups into a verbal agreement that they wanted to try new, innovative things, at which point Lasson simply handed the name and license over to Acclaim, exclusively. Interestingly enough, Fishbach has claimed that the idea for NBA Jam was actually Acclaim's. Even better is his claim that they owned the rights from the beginning, even as Midway was developing the games. You may be wondering why Mark Turmel, the actual creator of NBA Jam, didn't step in to save the name. Well, according to Turmel himself, he wasn't aware of the licensing change until Acclaim sent out a press release claiming to have full, exclusive rights to all things NBA Jam. Turmel wasn't the only one. In fact, the majority of Midway was left in the dark about what was happening until it was too late. Liptak recalls, "I do remember us in general being hostile and unhappy, and like, what idiot dropped the ball on this? They should be fired." Tony Goski, an artist at Midway who also worked on NBA Jam, recalls, "I remember walking down the hallway and hearing people yelling, 'I can't effing believe it.'" Fishbach dismisses claims of tension, citing that, at one point, Midway and Acclaim were in talks about a merger. On an executive level, the companies were apparently quite close. Fishbach told 1UP, "Midway and ourselves had long conversations of kind of putting the two companies together, and then at one point we just decided we couldn't make a deal, so we walked away with it. And we were fine. Everybody was happy." What should follow is a legacy of one of the greatest sports arcade series ever, instead follows a fragmented state that the series entered. On Midway's side, they could still create NBA games, and they most certainly tried, with NBA Hang Time, Showtime, and Hoops in subsequent years. These games did offer their own unique features, like create a player and eventually 3D graphics, but all of these games were missing a single, huge component: the name. Without the NBA Jam name attached, each title saw less and less success than the previous. It's not all bad though, as Midway was able to apply this formula, quite successfully at that, to several other sports, such as NFL Blitz in 1997 and the greatest hockey game of all time, NHL Hitz 2003 in 2002. Midway wound up filing for bankruptcy in 2009, with Warner Brothers buying the majority of their assets. By 2010, the company was no more. The other side of the NBA Jam story isn't a lot better. Keep in mind that the whole appeal of NBA Jam was its outlandish dunks, the fast 2-on-2 action, and the simple, tight controls that made the series an arcade staple to this day. In theory, all Acclaim would have to do is update the rosters, maybe make the jump to 3D, something Midway didn't do until NBA Showtime, and above all, maintain the status quo. And at first, they did just that. NBA Jam Extreme was released in 1996, the same year as NBA Hang Time. Although it wasn't perfect, Extreme was a decent follow-up to NBA Jam, and with some improvements down the line, it really seemed like Acclaim could actually handle the series by themselves. Unfortunately, NBA Jam quickly dropped everything that made it famous, becoming a 5-on-5 traditional basketball simulator. It didn't take long for the series to become an afterthought, a yearly release from 1998 to 2002, only consistently appearing on the Game Boy Color and eventually the Game Boy Advance. Acclaim tried once more with NBA Jam on the PS2 and Xbox before they shut their doors in 2004. Acclaim, as you can probably tell, isn't your normal company. Among their many stunts during their existence includes offering to pay speeding tickets in the UK to promote Burnout 2, offering to pay for advertising space on tombstones, as in actual cemetery tombstones for the recently deceased, to advertise Shadow Man's Second Coming, and a wide variety of other publicity stunts and grabs at cash until their collapse. But that's best saved for another video. Someday, Acclaim. Someday. After 2003, NBA Jam took a long, cold hiatus until a new title called What Else? NBA Jam was released on the Wii in 2010 by Electronic Arts. Now, I know what you're probably thinking by that statement, and EA has a rather well-earned reputation at this point. But for NBA Jam 2010, series creator Mark Turmell was brought in as a consultant. And wouldn't you know it, the game wasn't just okay, it was good. Damn good. As in a near-perfect successor to the original NBA Jam games from almost 2 decades earlier. EA wound up using this version of the game on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in lieu of their normal NBA Elite series that year, and an enhanced version for PS3 and 360 the following year on their respective digital stores. The future seemed bright for NBA Jam. Seemed is the key word. As of this video in 2020, the only other release of NBA Jam post the Wii, 360, and PS3 versions were ports of that version to Android in 2012 and Windows phones in 2013. EA has made zero indication of continuing the series, and while there is the 2K games published NBA Playgrounds, those games pale in comparison to the greatness of NBA Jam. To give a quick idea of what Playgrounds is, take NBA Jam, make the shooting and dunking less fun and simple to pull off, add heavy microtransactions, and in favor of giving you teams to pick from, players have to collect cards and form teams together out of their earned roster. Needless to say, this doesn't fill the burning hole NBA Jam has left in the hearts of those who remember it best. In truth, licensed arcade sports titles have largely gone the way of the dodo, with your big names like Madden or MLB The Show playing as realistically as they can, while smaller indie games try to fix what we're all missing. For me personally, none of these quite come close, and it's a shame, especially for the legacy of NBA Jam. It was a series that deserved better, and while we finally got it in 2010 and 2011, just as it was heating up again, EA has yet to let NBA Jam catch fire once more.